Hey there you guys, it's Irene here from irenelion.com and welcome to this video. And today I want to talk to you about hardwiring. Hardwiring. In other words, the hardwiring of our body, our brain, our nervous system, and all that stuff. Now, you may already know if you've been following me for a little bit, or if you just sort of keep your eye and your brain on the pulse of science and mind-body and healing in the trauma fields. We are not hardwired. We are not meant to stay in a certain groove for our entire life. However, the thing is many people that I come across and even many interviews that I hear, this is actually what spurred this desire to film this for you, is I was listening to a podcast with Derek Halpern and Tim Ferriss. So it's public knowledge, so I'm going to actually link that up underneath this video. But I think it was Derek was interviewing Tim, and Tim was talking about how he is hardwired in a certain way, that's just the way he is. And while I believe that there are elements that he struggles with that keep coming back, whether it's with anxiety or depression, and he did talk about that, we aren't hardwired. You're not hardwired. And the thing is this, is many practices, many healing modalities, they leave out some very important pieces, which is why people tend to think that they're hardwired, because they're always trying to manage certain things. So if I talk about the concept of feeling like you're hardwired because you have anxiety or depression, those things, if we call them challenges and struggles, they are not there just because we were born with them. It may seem like we were born with them because we've had them since we were young, but as we are starting to learn in the research, it is our nurturing, how our environment, how past adverse experiences, things like early trauma, surgeries, being born as a preemie, having parents that are also depressed or anxious, having a violent household, a household where we're always kind of on guard and not sure what's going to come at us, whether it's verbal abuse or physical abuse or sexual abuse. I know, not the funnest thing to talk about, but this is a reality in our life, so that's why I'm talking about it. So we have these things that occur to us when we're really little, even when we're in our mom's bellies in utero, and we feel the stress, we experience the stress, we have the surgings of adrenaline and cortisol, and our body starts to think of that as normal. We start to believe and feel cellularly that the world is an unsafe space, therefore we have to become hypervigilant, on guard, be in control, always know what's around the corner. And here's the thing, many individuals that say, I'm just hardwired, it's because they have never looked at those earlier circumstances that have let their system become, let's say, more anxious or more depressed, or usually it's a bit of both. Now, one of the things that we want to really work with when we're trying to unwire and heal a system, it's really the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, which governs our fight, flight, and freeze responses. Those are three very important elements that I'm going to teach you more about very soon. The thing we need to know about those is we're meant to have them. We want them to come on board when we're under threat. But this is what happens. The system does not get the memo that we are no longer in threat. So what does it do? It stays high, it stays revved up, or it shuts down and it kind of numbs out the world, it puts blinders on, and a person doesn't sense very well, they have trouble expressing themselves, emotions. So there's sort of two sides of the coin here. Often folks have kind of too high of a situation where they're really revved up. That would be, let's say, what we call anxiety. The other situation is where we're really low, very metabolically down, very depressed. This is what we see often when people have things like chronic pain, fibromyalgia, and digestive troubles. Some people, unfortunately, have both, and they switch between one and the other. So what does this have to do with hardwiring? Your nervous system, your autonomic nervous system, remember I said that's the system that governs the fight, flight, and freeze aspects. We need to start to teach that system that things are actually not unsafe. In other words, how can we get into the system in a way that doesn't pose a threat and gets it to feel itself sometimes for the first time ever. A lot of my clients, when they start to work with me and they start to become more embodied from a biological point of view, meaning they actually start to listen to their stress physiology, they kind of are like, when they come down, they kind of say to me, I don't think I've ever felt this 10% quality of safety, or I don't think I've actually ever touched my skin and felt my own body, because my body has been this area that has been assaulted and attacked for so many years that you just you believe that that's the way it always is. Now, this process of unwiring the hardwiring and rewiring it, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes practice. Many therapies and many other forms of healing, bless their hearts, they skip over this element of understanding how the fight, flight, freeze mechanisms work. Many go straight to just deep breathing practices, body work practices, movement practices. But just like building a house, right now I'm standing in my house, we need to have a foundation. If we don't have a foundation under us, when that earthquake hits, and trust me, little earthquakes come through here, if there wasn't a foundation, if there wasn't proper, steel within the foundations, it would crumble. This is what occurs in individuals that have had early stress, early traumatic stress, or various forms of chronic stress throughout their lives. Their foundations are shaky, and for many of them, their foundations were actually never there in the first place. That is why it feels like you're not able to change, that things are hardwired. The good news is that we have something called neuroplasticity, which is basically the brain and nervous system and body's capacity to change, to be plastic, to mold, to remold, to change, to grow. All right, so what I want to suggest is, if you are someone who often says this is just the way it always is, or you have clients or people in your family who seem to be on this spiral where they never fully come down and they're always up, or they're always trying to change something, improve their health through eating well, diet, exercise, getting coaching, getting therapy that's very talk and cognitive based, I would love to encourage you to check out my stuff over on my site and see what you can find there. I've got a shop page that has a lot of good free stuff, a lot of ebooks and guides. One there is actually on neuroplasticity. Others teach you about how to de-stress from a body-based point of view, not just a mindset point of view. There are elements that give you interviews, working and talking with my teachers, my colleagues. There's a lot of good stuff over there. And if you are interested in an upcoming free training on healing trauma so that you can rewire your nervous system, somewhere down below, and I think I'll include it in the video, is a link to that opt-in page where you can opt in. Let me know that you'd like to take advantage of this free training when it comes up very, very soon. And then when we get into that free training, I'm going to be teaching you about your nervous system, what is in it, what it affects, why it ends up seeming like it's hardwired, and what has to happen so that we can rewire that system so that it can be healthy and whole, maybe for the first time ever. So I'm going to leave it at that. Like I said, many ways that you can learn about this stuff. This is my passion. It is what I do for my living with my clients, with people every day from all around the world. And if this is speaking to you and you'd like to learn more, definitely find a way to reconnect with me. Send me a note, follow me on social media, and I'd love to meet you in the upcoming free training series on healing trauma. Okay, I will leave it at that. Take very good care, and until next time.